The real cost of living in the Netherlands, 2025. Is it still affordable? Alright, so you're thinking of relocating to the Netherlands? Maybe you've seen the picturesque canals, the vibrant culture, the fields of tulips, and you're dreaming of making it your new home. It's an amazing country, no doubt about it. But before you even think about packing those bags, hitting book flight, or learning how to pronounce Groningen correctly, we absolutely need to talk numbers. Because let's be real, the dream can quickly turn into a bit of a financial headache if you're not prepared. Is the Netherlands still affordable in 2025? That's the big question, and trust me, the answer isn't as simple as a yes or no. Let's get into it and see what your wallet is really in for. Alright, let's kick things off with the absolute heavyweight champion of your monthly expenses in the Netherlands: housing. There's no way around it. For most people, this is where the biggest chunk of your paycheck is going to disappear, especially if you've got your heart set on the big city lights. For a one-bedroom apartment in Amsterdam, you should realistically expect to pay anywhere between 1,200 and 1,800 euros per month. If you're willing to look beyond the capital, cities like Eindhoven or Groningen can offer a much more budget-friendly experience when it comes to housing. In these smaller, yet still vibrant cities, you might find a similar one-bedroom apartment for around 800 to 1,200 euros per month. Living in cities like Eindhoven, Utrecht, Rotterdam, or Groningen doesn't mean you're missing out entirely. These places have their own unique charm, strong job markets in certain sectors, and a generally more relaxed pace of life compared to the tourist hustle of Amsterdam. It's about weighing your priorities, prime location versus more disposable income. Now here's a pro tip, and this is a big one, especially if you're on a tighter budget or looking in competitive areas. Register early for housing. Many housing associations and rental platforms operate on a waiting list system, particularly for social housing or more affordable private rentals. And speaking of budgets, if you're a student or just looking for the most economical option, don't overlook student housing platforms or shared accommodation. Websites specifically catering to students often have rooms or studios that are significantly cheaper than the general market. Even if you're not a student, looking for a room in a shared house, a kamer, can drastically cut down your housing costs. The process of actually finding an apartment can be quite intense. Be prepared for viewings where you might be one of 20 or 30 people interested in the same place. You'll need to have your documents in order, proof of income, sometimes a letter from your employer, and be ready to make a decision quickly. It's not uncommon for good places to be snapped up within hours of being listed, so diligence and preparedness are key. Also, remember to factor in additional upfront costs. Most landlords will require a deposit, which is typically 1 or 2 months' rent. While agency fees for tenants have largely been abolished if the agent is working for the landlord, always clarify who the agent represents to avoid unexpected charges. Ultimately, when it comes to housing in the Netherlands, it's a game of compromises, research, and sometimes a bit of luck. The key is to be realistic about what you can afford, explore all your options, and don't get discouraged if the search takes a little longer than you initially hoped. Alright, now that we've tackled the giant elephant in the room that is housing, let's move on to something equally essential but hopefully a little less terrifying for your bank account: groceries and food. You've got to eat, right? And how you approach your food budget can make a significant difference in how affordable your life in the Netherlands feels. The good news is, with a bit of smart shopping and planning, this is an area where you can definitely exercise a lot of control. So, what are we looking at for weekly groceries for a single person? Generally, you can expect to spend somewhere in the range of 50 to 70 euros. This, of course, depends heavily on your eating habits. Are you a steak every night kind of person, or are you happy with pasta and vegetables? Do you buy a lot of organic products, or are you focused on getting the basics? This range usually covers a balanced diet with a mix of fresh produce, dairy, proteins, and pantry staples. Now, if you want to lean towards the lower end of that 50 to 70 euro range or even try to beat it, your choice of supermarket is going to be key. This is where stores like Aldi and Lidl become your best friends. These discount supermarkets are incredibly popular in the Netherlands for a reason. They offer quality products at significantly lower prices than their more mainstream counterparts like Albert Heijn or Jumbo. You might not find the same extensive range of brands, but for everyday essentials, they are fantastic. Shopping at Aldi and Lidl isn't just about saving a few cents here and there. Those savings really add up over the course of a month or a year. Think about it. If you can save 10 to 20 euros a week on groceries, that's an extra 40 to 80 euros a month, or nearly 500 to 1,000 euros a year. What about eating out? The Dutch aren't known for eating out every single night. Home cooking is quite prevalent, partly due to cost. However, you'll definitely want to enjoy the local cafes and restaurants sometimes. A meal in a mid-range restaurant, say a main course and a drink, will typically set you back around 20 to 30 euros per person. This can vary, of course, with trendy spots in big cities costing more, and local e-cafes sometimes offering simpler, cheaper meals. If 20 to 30 euros per meal out sounds like it could quickly derail your budget, you're right. This is why many people reserve restaurant meals for special occasions or weekend treats. For more frequent budget-friendly eating out, look for things like broodjeswinkels, sandwich shops, takeaway spots offering Surinamese or Indonesian food, which is fantastic and often good value, or the classic Dutch street food like fries with various sauces, or if you're brave, a raw herring from a fish stand. One of the best ways to manage your food budget, especially if you're trying to save money, is meal prepping. All right, you've got a roof over your head and food in the fridge. Now, how are you going to get around this flat, beautiful country? Transportation is another key piece of the cost of living puzzle in the Netherlands, and thankfully, there are some very Dutch, very efficient, and often very cost-effective ways to navigate. From the iconic bicycles to the extensive public transport network, let's break down what it costs to be mobile. First up, public transport. The Dutch public transport system, which includes trains, trams, buses, and metros, is generally excellent, clean, punctual, and extensive. If you're going to be relying on it regularly, especially for a daily commute, a monthly subscription is usually the way to go. This will typically cost you around 100 euros a month. This figure can vary, of course, depending on the specific zones you need to travel in, or if you need a nationwide pass. This 100 euro subscription often involves loading a balance onto an OV chip card, which is the universal smart card for all public transport in the Netherlands. You tap in when you start your journey and tap out when you finish. Some subscriptions offer unlimited travel within certain regions, while others give you a discount on fares. It's really important to research the best type of subscription for your specific travel patterns to maximize your savings. But here's the thing about the Netherlands, and you probably already know this. Most locals bike, everywhere. It's not just a leisure activity, it's a fundamental mode of transport. And this isn't just a quaint cultural quirk, it's an incredibly smart financial decision. Investing in a bicycle can save you a substantial amount of money in the long run, not to mention it's great for your health and the environment. The cycling infrastructure here is second to none, with dedicated bike paths making it safe and convenient. So how much does this two-wheeled freedom cost? You can get a solid, reliable used bike for around 100 to 200 euros. You don't need anything fancy. A sturdy Oma Fiets, grandma bike, will do the job perfectly. You can find these at local bike shops that sell secondhand bikes, or online on platforms like Marktplaats, the Dutch eBay. Just make sure it comes with good locks. Bike theft is unfortunately common, so investing in a strong chain lock and a frame lock is essential. Think about the long-term savings here. If a public transport subscription is 100 euros a month, that's 1,200 euros a year. All right, we've covered where you'll live, what you'll eat, and how you'll get around. Now, let's talk about those essential, non-negotiable monthly costs that keep modern life running smoothly. Insurance, internet, mobile phone, and your basic utilities. These might not be the most exciting expenses, but they are absolutely critical, and they add up, so you need to budget for them accurately. First and foremost, let's discuss health insurance. In the Netherlands, basic health insurance, basisverzekering, is mandatory for everyone living or working here. You cannot skip this. You need to take out a policy with a Dutch health insurer within 4 months of registering as a resident. The cost for this basic package typically ranges from around 120 to 140 euros per month. This price can vary slightly between insurers and depending on the level of your eigen risico, your annual deductible. The eigen risico is a fixed amount, currently 385 euros per year, but you can opt for a higher deductible to lower your monthly premium that you pay out of pocket for most healthcare costs before your insurance starts covering them. Things like visits to your GP, huisarts, are usually exempt from the deductible. It's important to understand how this works because an unexpected medical need could mean paying that deductible first. Choosing a provider can seem daunting as there are many, but the basic coverage is legally standardized, meaning it's the same across all insurers. Where they differ is in their supplementary packages, for things like dental or physiotherapy, customer service, and whether they have contracts with all healthcare providers. A restitutiepolis gives you free choice, while a naturopolis might restrict you to contracted providers for full reimbursement. For those on lower incomes, there's a government benefit called zorgtoeslag, healthcare allowance, which can help offset the cost of health insurance, so definitely check if you qualify for that. Next up, let's bundle internet, mobile phone, and basic utilities, gas, electricity, water. For these combined, you should budget around 100 to 150 euros per month. Of course, this is an estimate and can fluctuate based on your usage, the size of your apartment, and the providers you choose. For internet, you'll find various providers offering different speeds and packages, often bundled with TV and sometimes a landline phone, though landlines are becoming less common. A decent fiber or cable internet connection might cost you around 40 to 60 euros per month. It's worth comparing providers like Ziggo, KPN, T-Mobile Thuis, as they often have introductory offers. Reliable internet is pretty crucial, especially if you work from home or rely on it for communication. Mobile phone plans are next. You can opt for a SIM-only deal if you already have a handset, which is usually cheaper, or get a contract that includes a new phone. Alright, we've crunched a lot of numbers for housing, food, transport, and essential services. Now for the big question that many of you might be asking, especially if you're just starting out, perhaps on an entry-level salary, or as a student with some savings, can you actually survive or even live reasonably well in the Netherlands on 2,000 euros per month? And we're talking net income here, after taxes. The short answer is yes, it's possible, but it absolutely comes with some significant sacrifices and requires very careful budgeting. Let's be clear, living on 2,000 euros a month in a country like the Netherlands, especially if you're in or near a major city, is going to be tight. It's not a lifestyle of luxury, it's a lifestyle of careful choices and prioritization. This amount needs to cover your rent, your groceries, your transport, your health insurance, your utilities, your phone, and hopefully leave a little something for savings or leisure. It demands financial discipline from day one. So, how do you make it work? One of the biggest levers you can pull to make a 2,000 euro budget feasible is your housing situation. As we discussed in Chapter 1, if you're trying to rent a one-bedroom apartment in Amsterdam for 1,500 euros, then 2,000 euros a month is simply not going to cut it. This is where shared housing becomes almost a necessity rather than just an option. Renting a room in a shared apartment can bring your housing costs down to, say, 500 to 700 euros, even in more expensive cities. Living in shared housing isn't for everyone, and it comes with its own set of pros and cons. Dealing with housemates, shared responsibilities, potentially less privacy. But the financial relief it provides can be the single biggest factor in making a 2,000 euro budget work. Finding these rooms often happens through dedicated websites, Facebook groups, or word of mouth. It requires persistence, but the savings are undeniable. The next critical tool in your arsenal is meticulous budgeting, and this is where budgeting apps can be incredibly helpful. There are many out there. YNAB, you need a budget. Mint, though availability varies. Spendy, or even a simple spreadsheet you create yourself. The key is to track every single euro you spend. When your income is limited, you need to know exactly where your money is going so you can identify areas where you can cut back. These apps can help you categorize your spending, set limits for different categories like groceries, entertainment, clothing, and see your progress throughout the month. It's about making conscious spending decisions rather than letting your money just disappear. When you see that you've already spent 80% of your food budget with a week to go, it forces you to adjust your plans and perhaps cook more at home. Another major strategy, which we've touched on before, is choosing to live outside of Amsterdam or the other major Randstad cities if your work or study allows. Your 2,000 euros will stretch significantly further in a smaller city or town. So there you have it, a deep dive into the real cost of living in the Netherlands in 2025. As you can see, it's a mixed bag. While some costs, like housing in major cities, can be quite high, there are definitely ways to manage your expenses and live a fulfilling life here without necessarily needing a massive income. Especially if you're smart about your choices, willing to embrace the local lifestyle, hello bikes, and plan carefully. It's not just about the numbers, it's about how you approach those numbers. The key takeaway is that affordability is relative and highly dependent on your lifestyle, your priorities, and where you choose to live. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.